Welcome back, everybody. We are wrapping up our 2-week series of the BGD Virtual Career Fair. I am the founder of the Black Golf Directory, Jamie Taylor, and I'm excited because we've touched on a lot of different organizations, but this one is very, very unique because they not only are the leaders in golf in the communications area, but they have so much more than that going on. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with GolfDigest or Golf TV. They are a subsidiary of the Warner Brothers Discovery. And so the people that I have on today are employees of that company, and they're going to have some great information to share with you about their experience working for that organization and what experience they've had in the golf side of things. So thank you for joining us. If at any time you have any questions that you want answered, please put them in the chat. We'll be able to hopefully get to them before the end of the call. And also, if you have not already done so, be sure to register at blackgolfdirectory.com/events so that you can get this recording as well as any of the upcoming jobs that may be available at this organization, as well as a way to contact someone there so that you can get more information on opportunities. So with that, I'm going to bring on our first guest, Taria. Welcome, Taria.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Can you share with the audience your title, what you do at Warner Brother Discovery, and just touch a little bit on your golf exposure in your role?
Sure. I am Vice President of Strategic Brand and Talent Communications for Warner Brothers Discovery Sports. So in that role, I get to help tell the story of all the premium sports content that we deliver to fans from a PR perspective, and get to work with our world-class roster of sports talent. My golf experience includes working on Capital One's The Match, our signature golf program, and our previous iterations of PGA.com and PGAtour.com.
Awesome. So I'm excited to hear more about what you're doing in the space of the golf, as well as just what you do overall, because it sounds like a pretty cool job. So I'm going to bring in our next guest that's joining in, Sean. Sean, please tell the people about yourself and what you do at Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Currently, I'm a partner strategy coordinator at Warner Brothers Discovery. So I'm working on the sales side of things, working on sales activations for our sponsorships. And within the golf space, with the match we currently have, I make sure that sponsors are getting the correct exposure that they need on site and on television. So if that is within the broadcast with billboards or just general graphic wraps, so we are trying to cover that.
Awesome. So for those who are just tuning in, we're at Warner Brother Discovery, also the brand of GolfDigest that I'm sure you're familiar with, and Golf TV. So they're here to just share with you some insight as to what it's like to work for that company, and the overarching company as well, and just some opportunities that you can consider if you want to decide to work there. So I always like to ask my guests first, what brought you into this role? How did you get to work for this company specifically? What's your background? And also must lead with, are you a golfer? So Taria, can you start first?
I'm not officially a golfer. I do own golf clubs for a left-handed golfer. And sometimes I'm out on the range, but I'm not officially a golfer. My role in sports started 14 years ago when I joined the company, working on the NBA side of the business and the digital sports tech side of the business. So when everyone was trying to merge technology and sports together, my role was helping people understand that from a PR perspective.
Got it. Okay. And with that, did you have, I'm guessing, a degree in PR? Or what did you have to kind of get into that role as far as education?
Yeah, I attended Clark Atlanta University, majored in public relations, and had several PR internships in the media industry that led me to want to continue to work in this space.
Awesome. Okay. So you pretty much, that was the pipeline that you were in. And so now you kind of stay with the company for a while. And 14 years is a long haul. As somebody who, I don't know how old you are, but you look like you could be around my age. 14 years is, I don't know, I've never done that before. And that sounds insane. So I would love to hear at some point in this conversation what has kept you in the fold there, because obviously something, they're doing something right. So Sean, can you give the audience some background on yourself? How did you end up there and in your role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started within the company as an NCAA intern. I worked on the business operations area, and within that, you go into working with NCAA, checking all of our collegiate sports that we air, and also within that, checking how the sales have done, doing quarterly reports. So that gave me the entry level role into it, and then just asking around our company because we have so many different sports, which is amazing. I then got in contact with our sponsorship team, and from then on, I had joined our team.
And can you give us a little bit of your background as far as, did you get a degree? What did you get your degree in? And does that degree tie to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so in undergrad, I had a psychology and communications double major, and then I went to Wake Forest for my master's and had a master's in business. But during my undergraduate years, I also did sports marketing at Eastern Michigan Athletics. So I was helping roll up T-shirts and throw them out into the crowd, but also bring people down, and then also did ticket sales for 2 or 3 different sports at Eastern. So those were kind of some bases that I got, so that I know that my degree didn't necessarily fit sports, but I did want to make sure that I had got the experience in sports.
Got it. Okay. So background, business, and psychology. And that's an interesting combination, but I also want an audience to just be aware of that I know from just being a golfer and having lived that golf life my entire life, most golf professionals like myself do not master or go to school for golf. We may play on the golf team, some of us, but I want to be clear to the audience that it's not typical that you go to school, get a degree in the field of golf, and then work in the golf industry. It could be pretty much anything, and then you kind of follow your path. So, Taria, can you share with the audience just an overarching Warner Brother Discovery, which is the parent company of GolfDigest and Golf TV? What does that look like as far as departments? Because I heard you all talk about there's a lot of different sports you cover. So, what does that look like?
Yeah. So Warner Brothers Discovery Sports, the sports arm of the parent company, like I said, we are the global leader in the delivery of premium sports content. So our portfolio includes partnerships with the NBA, Major League Baseball, NCAA, as Sean mentioned, in NHL, and also the United States Soccer Federation. And then globally, it includes TNT Sports in Europe, including the Premier League, UEFA Champions League, and then our sisters at Golf Digest and Global Mountain Bike Network. And then also we own and operate Bleacher Report. So everything that comes along with Bleacher Report, House of Highlights, Highlight Her, and then just all the digital, social, and components within that brand.
Okay, and can you also just speak to just the departments as a whole? So, just generally speaking, if I were to apply for a role there, what type of departments do you have available as far as where you hire people?
Sure. So there's production. Production is a large entity of sports. So that includes behind the scenes camera people, from a director, associate producer, audio person. There is graphics. So all the graphics and visuals that you see on air or on social or on digital, we have people that actually create those. We have a creative services sports unit, which we call CSSU. They get to, I like to tell people that don't really understand it, some of them make music videos. So all of our sizzles and teases that you see before the games or the events, that team creates. We have a sales and sponsorships team, which Sean can talk to. We have marketing department, a PR department, a talent department. So our talent is responsible for securing all of our top athletes and analysts that we work with, for the broadcasting side of the business. And then we have research department that is responsible for our ratings and our metrics. And we have a legal department, like most companies, that allows us to legally do everything we need to do and helps us with contracts and all of all of our rights deals and everything. So I think that covers the gamut of roles. And there's also HR in sports. You don't necessarily have to have a background in sports to work in sports, because there are roles that you can do well in and not have to have such a concentrated knowledge of the industry.
Got it. So can you just clarify for someone who's a golfer and thinks, okay, I'm going to go work there. I want to potentially work for the Golf Digest or Golf TV side of things. What does that look like for them? I mean, obviously you have people who write for the magazine, or maybe you have contractors for that, but just kind of explain how can they get into that avenue?
Yeah, I'll talk about it from a holistic level and not specifically Golf Digest, but within Warner Brothers Discovery Sports, if we have a digital platform, you can work on the editorial side of that, meaning you can help write for the site, you can help with content on the site, you can be a producer. So, when you click on a link and watch a feature or watch a 30-second video, there are people that create those, editors, producers. You can do that. You can be on the business side of the company in the PR landscape or in sales or sponsorship or marketing. So there's lots of opportunities under the umbrella of whatever sports property that you want to work on.
Got it. Thanks for that clarification. I just I'm not a writer by any means, so I have no thought that I'd ever consider going to work there. But like I said, there's always other ways of getting in there, that things that you can do. And so I'm going to kick it to you, Sean, because you mentioned that you had gotten through an entry level position as an intern. So can you talk about that internship experience and what that entailed? Were there other interns? About how many? Kind of what did that look like?
Yeah, so for the NCAA digital, I believe they hire close to 8 to 10 different interns, because we have editorial, business operations, marketing, and some other different roles that I wasn't in. But it's usually held in Atlanta. My year, we were fully remote due to COVID. But it was a great experience where you get to look at all of our sports. So even if you're an NCAA digital intern, you could also kind of look at golf. I know a personal intern that I worked with who focused on track and field. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can focus on within our NCAA. Then also you get experience with working with the NCAA themselves, but also Fanatics, because they are supplying our gear on ncashop.com. So you get to build upon all of those experiences and then have that digital side, because you're working on e-commerce and then reporting how you are doing and in those avenues. So I was pretty happy with it, because there's so many different things you can look at and go into that you would like to focus on. But that was my experience.
And can you talk about what it looked like during your internship, as far as like the expectations? Were you working regular 9 to 5 hours? Were you traveling a lot? Kind of talk more about that.
Yes, I was working 9 to 5. I did have the opportunity to travel. I applied within our company to, I forget the name of it, Taria, but I was allowed to visit the 2021 Legacy Classic, and that was our HBCU event. So that was the opportunity to travel to New Jersey, and I got to meet more of our sales team. And that kind of led me into applying for the sales role itself. But those were the opportunities. And then there's also opportunities, because you can apply to go to, let's say, all-star event if they have in those temple events that are, and they will let you know in the company what's available to apply for.
Got it. Okay, that sounds pretty fun. So you got a little dabble in a little bit of everything, which is good. As far as, and so from you going from an intern to where you are now, what was that process for you? Did you have to interview for another role, or did you talk to the person in that department and say, hey, do you have a job? Can you take me once I'm done with my internship? How'd you transition?
Both. Uh, so you definitely have to interview, and the interview process may take, let's say, two months or so. So just being aware of that, if you are towards the end of your internship, kind of knowing when to apply before you're out of your internship is important. And then speaking to so many different departments, I spoke to a lot, just to figure out where I would fit in at. And then when I found out about the sales team, and I've always kind of had that eye for sponsorships, I spoke to them. Luckily enough, they had an open role on the team, so it kind of just aligned with timing. Sometimes you may not find the perfect role that you personally wanted, but if you are still within the company, it will come back around. You'll still have the time, and everybody's going to be great to help you get into the area you would like to be in.
Got it. Okay. And I asked that question because every place is different. I mean, I alluded to this, but I haven't been in golf my whole career. Sometimes in golf spaces, you get to know somebody in a different department. They kind of, steal you from the other department. It's not as formal. But of course, for an intern, it could be a different process. So I just want to make sure the audience knows that this is how it works at the Warner Brothers Sports department, because I think that is a unique thing that people just need to know. So with that, can you talk about just working for the company? What are some of the and I'll speak to you, Taria, because you're at a high level position. I love that you guys are both kind of in a different space. And this is an audience of color, so this is a safe space. But as a woman of color, what is it like working at the level of a VP for the company? What does that look like as far as your counterparts? What does that look like as far as ability? Like, you obviously went from where you started to where you are now. Just give us that insight. Hold on. I think I have you on mute. Go ahead, unmute yourself because I'm having trouble. There you go.
I feel like that was 4 questions in one, but I will say, yes, I've been at the company a long time, and I think as a woman in sports, and just a woman of color in corporate America, I try to make sure a couple of pillars always hold true to me and what I'm doing and where I'm working. Like, do I feel respected? Do I feel valued, and that my contributions are heard and appreciated? And I love what I do? And I think I've been able to check those boxes every year, or every time. I feel like, wow, I've been here a long time, and the fact that I feel I can still learn from people around me and still contribute to those that are coming up. I think in this space, I'm able, specifically at this company, I'm able to be authentically myself and not feel nervous about bringing my whole self to work when there are good days in the world, or bad days in the world, as we have seen in the last few years. I've been able to show up and just feel comfortable and safe in the environment that I'm working in. And I think that's important, and things to think about when you're looking for opportunities, whether it's an internship or a full-time job.
Yeah, that's very important because, again, in the golf world, it's not always that comfortable for us. But there's not many of us in positions like yours in the companies that we work for. So, and it's very few of us in those positions, and the company as a whole. So, just good to know that working at that company, you feel comfortable being yourself. And then Sean, I don't know if you had prior jobs, but now you're now working full time for them. What's the culture like from your perspective at Warner Brother Discovery?
Yeah, the culture is pretty great. You do get to be yourself, which is awesome. And then you're also allowed to give ideas. You have free range to voice opinions, ideas. If you would like to focus on a certain area, like again with NTA, if you want to focus just on track and field, you're allowed to do that, and they will help support you in those kind of ways. So for that, it's been awesome. And then within the dress code itself, I was a little bit surprised because when you come here, some people are in hoodies, but that's just to say you don't have to be suit and tie all the time. They are very relaxed dress codes, but everybody is great. You come to work, they are supporting your ideas. And even so, like within production, working with producers, we can kind of ask them different ideas, or if we want to focus on, let's say, breast cancer awareness month, we can have those conversations without it being a worry. So for those, I think it's great.
And that's very important because a lot of people, especially now post-pandemic, feel feel like they don't want to, go to work and have to get dressed up every day and do what used to be the norm is no longer the norm. And so with that said, we often get a question from the audience about your remote working or a hybrid working schedule. What does that look like, Taria, overall?
Yeah, I mean, We're mandated 3 days a week to be in the office, like most companies are trying to trend towards. And, it's all about flexibility where we are. I think it's important that you're able to do what you need to do maybe on a personal front, but as long as you're being a high value contributor and producing on the professional front, then it all works out. In sports, the schedules, and in golf, you can resonate with this too. Is sometimes you're working nights, sometimes you're working holidays, sometimes you're working weekends, and so that factors into the flexibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, in the golf space, you can you can work a lot of weekends and a lot of holidays, so, that's good to hear that it's not that much different, but for some people, that could be a shock if you're coming from a more traditional company. Um, and let's talk about, just if people getting into to work there, what are some tips and tricks you can give people if they're looking to work there that will help them get through that application/interview process? And I'll go back to you, Taria, on that one.
I think it's really about relationships. Sean, I think you have a great testimony to that because, if you get in and you meet one person and they're impressed by you, they may want you to speak to their colleagues and speak to other colleagues so that more people get to know your name and think of you for opportunities. It's all about relationships, and it is a slow build. Because things don't happen overnight. You could, meet someone at an event or on a golf course or wherever. They tell you where they work, and you just start building and fostering that relationship and letting them know who you are and letting them know what you can contribute. And then maybe something will come along 6 months later or a year later, but you still have built this relationship and they know to think of you top of mind before anyone else because you have built this relationship. So it's truly about relationships. And then I think also the work that you can bring to it once you've started to build that relationship.
I hear that term relationship a lot, and that's been a consistent theme in a lot of the calls we've had this last 2 weeks. But I want to get more clarity on what's a healthy version of that relationship and not so healthy. So, what I'm alluding to is, there's people that can just get really aggressive. So, can you just talk about what that looks like as far as a healthy relationship?
Yeah. I've said this before on panels and in places. There is a fine line between healthy and non-healthy. So I think check-ins. And I don't know the age of the audience, and I don't know if this is still relevant in today's social media age. But I always relate it to dating. It's a slow check-in. You check in every week, or you check in every couple of months, but make it relevant. Like if you're in school and you want to check in with someone on the professional side, you can always say, check in around the holidays. Hey, I know it's the holidays. I know you guys are getting ready for a certain sporting event, the match, or start of season or mid season. Just wanted you to know I'm watching your coverage, but I'm also doing well in my classes. Like everything has to connect. And then I think the unhealthy version is reaching out daily or on multiple platforms with the same message, thinking that if they don't respond via email, they'll respond via LinkedIn or they'll respond via Instagram. No, we're all busy in every facet of our lives. And so you have to kind of do a double dutch of what feels right versus being unhealthy.
Yeah, no, you definitely make a lot of sense, and I like that you mentioned about the multiple platforms because uh, even as a person who runs a business, on my end, people think, oh, you didn't respond to me here, I'll respond to you there, and like you said, it's not that I'm not seeing your message, I just don't have time to get to it at that moment. So it's a good thing to kind of just be patient and let people give them, I don't know, a week, maybe a couple weeks, just to kind of make sure that you're not overextending yourself too too much. And so, Sean, to that end, obviously you've had success moving up within the company. Can you provide some tips and tricks on things that you've done that work for you and things that you, just so they can recommend to someone looking to work at the company?
Yeah, I would say when you're speaking to somebody or if it's already set up to speak to someone, bring something to the table. If that is, hey, I see that ESPN has a lot of multi simulcast for the NFL. Can we talk about this because you work in broadcast? Those kind of things. Or, hey, I've done this for my sports marketing class, or I've done this for our athletics program. Those things help build a relationship. Be aware that people have families and let alone their jobs. So people are pretty busy, and emails do slip by. So just give them some grace, but also you don't always have to bang on the same door. You can talk to somebody else and say later on when you build that relationship, hey, could you connect me to Taria? I was never able to reach her. And those things can help build a relationship versus constantly messaging Taria. Now Taria's a little afraid to respond back because you overly message, right? So those are some things that help and help me build my relationships.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I definitely think that, there's more than one way to get to the top, and more than and making that connection with multiple people is very helpful. Um, and so to that end, I would love to hear from you all. What's one of, and again, I know you don't work in the golf space all the time, but for you, Taria, having done something in the golf space, what's one of the most memorable things you've done as far as in the golf side of your job?
Well, I can probably name two. I think attending a PGA championship was pretty monumental. Just to be on the green and see the fans and see the golfers, and experience that not having played golf in school or be an avid golfer, just to be in that space and soak it up was was an experience. I think the match, the one that the mentioned before, as a part of the match, we also raise funds for different initiatives each year. We raised funds for different hurricane relief. One year we did it for HBCUs, and just to see the impact and the magnitude of other athletes, not just avid golfers, but football players or basketball players playing golf and interacting and having a good time for a good cause. Um, and we can have fans watch and enjoy, is something that was also significant.
Nice. And I think that's one side of golf people are seeing more of, especially on social media, that there's a lot of celebrities that are taken to the game. So if you do get into golf, sounds like working at your company is another way that people can have that interaction or potentially see some celebrities in their job. Is there a celebrity that you met that you were like fangirl over?
No. I well, I take that back. Yes, Beyonce. But that's everyone. But I try to just look at celebrities like they're regular people, and I think that allows me to do my job in the light that I do it in.
Yeah, well, considering she just did that world tour, I'm sure that's to be able to interact with a Beyonce outside of a tour space is kind of cool. Um, and so, Sean, same question to you. What's one of the most memorable things you've done? I know you don't work in the golf space much, but anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would speak to being able to talk to my teammates because they are working on it, and I'm, right next to them, so I can talk to them about the philanthropy side of what they do, which is what we also did for Legacy Classic with giving back to HBCU students. So those are things that always push me is a passion of kind of giving back within sponsorships, and highlighting those untold stories in a sense. But it's been pretty cool to know like, oh, okay, Travis Kelce and Steph Curry is going to come out here. And it would have been great if Travis Kelce was kind of dating Taylor Swift during this process of the match, because that would have been super huge. But those are things that are super cool. I love to like just do strategy and kind of pick brains with people. So I get to do that with my teammates all the time of what they're doing for golf, how they're going to make it bigger and better, or what areas would they like to focus on next.
And you mentioned at the beginning of this interview, and first of all, I want to just go back to the audience. If you have any questions during this interview, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. You mentioned that you just are learning the game of golf. So, what actually piqued your interest to start to learn? Was it from the golf space, or what was the reason behind it?
Yeah, I'm a self-acclaimed, great mini golfer. I think I'm pretty good at it. But I've been doing that since, like high school. But kind of just building up over time, finally going out to the courses. I've been to Top Golf a few times, but then finally went out to a real 18 course last year. I just went to a 9 course hole, I think last month. And then I found a driving range kind of near me. So I just want to dive more into the golf space because it is very relaxing, but also a sport that's really growing. And I would like to be a part of it.
Have you heard of the event? Not the event, the TV show Holy Moly?
I haven't.
Well, you said you are a great mini golfer, so if you really want to put yourself to the test, you should apply to be a candidate on that show. It's a Steph Curry show that basically has a champion of the mini golf world compete on national TV. It's a little bit more to it than what I'm explaining, but if you check it out on YouTube, I'm sure you'll get a kick from that. So, with that said, do you all, from just being around golf, just from a job standpoint, what would you say golf does as far as a career? Because I feel like for a lot of us that are golfers, we're told that golf can help open doors, can help with networking. So, have you all seen that play out in some of the roles, some of the opportunities that you had when you're working in the golf space? I'll go to you, Taria, for that.
Um, sure. I think one of the biggest things golf teaches you is patience, and that things won't always go right. When you have a plan of where you want the ball to land, it won't all the time. And I think just, the times that I've been out on the range or the classes that I've taken, it takes a lot of patience. I think it is important to, a lot of conversations happen on the golf course, whether they do with business or personal. A lot of conversations happen in that space. So being able to be there and be in the mix to get things done is just as valuable if you're in the office.
Yeah, we hear that, and again, I don't know how this works in your world, but we hear that in a lot of corporations, a way to get closer to the higher ups in some cases is to be able to go out and play golf, whether it's in a golf outing or if everybody, few of them go golfing on a weekend or a Friday afternoon after work. Do you find that there's a people in the company that golf and maybe that's a bonding experience for them?
Well, I think it's a little different for us. We do on the NBA and hockey and baseball side of things. A lot of our broadcasts are in the evening, so we may go from our desks upstairs to the studio that night, and so a lot of meetings happen in the hallway in the studio during commercial breaks while we're not on the air. So I think there's always pockets of times to conduct business outside of just the traditional work hours on the golf course, in the studio, on the basketball court. Like, I think there's ways to navigate it and do it with your colleagues. There are people at work that golf on the side, but a lot of the times people are spending time with their families and, and their kids. But a lot of our analysts, our NBA analysts and baseball analysts, they golf in their free time.
Yeah, just curious because I know you're not a golfer per se, but I find that I mean, even when I worked in my past companies, wasn't always golf, right? We played tennis, we did some other activities outside, but it was always a way to kind of mix people at your level versus the entry level people were able to engage in an environment that wasn't as formal as the office space. And so it kind of gave us a chance to get to know each other on a more personal level and, get a chance to really get to know each other. And so with that, can you guys, and you may have alluded to it, working at the office specifically, what are some of the perks that you get of working for the company? So, for example, yesterday interview, they casually mentioned that they go to the cafeteria, and I was like, I've never worked at a company that has a cafeteria in the building. So just what are some of the perks that you all have working there for Warner Brothers Discovery? I'll start with you, Sean, and go back to you, Taria.
Yeah, some of the perks have been being able to talk to a lot of different people, and then also you get more chances to run into higher ups because you kind of figure out where their offices are, and then you can just kind of walk around and run into them versus sending an email where you may feel uncomfortable or an email that's out of the blue. And they still are very willing to talk to you even if you do that. But those things have helped kind of break the ice and also meet a lot of new people. And then there's been some teams like the marketing team who has a seasonal intern. So I've been able to talk to the upcoming interns and greet them as well as I was greeted when I was an intern. So kind of paying it back, but those are the abilities being in office.
I,
That's a-
I just want to back up for a second. When you said, playing tennis or playing golf, the higher ups and the entry levels get to connect. Where we work, it's a place where all ideas are appreciated and accepted. We have this mentality where ideas come from anywhere. We've gotten ideas from the cleaning staff before because they've been in the room when there's a meeting. So there's really no hierarchy of senior and entry when it comes to just sharing ideas. Sean could be in a meeting with higher ups and have a great idea, and everyone will be able to listen to it and see if there's a way we can activate on it. So I think that's a really good thing in our company is ideas come from everywhere and anyone can contribute. As far as perks, I think Sean is right. Like when you're in the office, you can have these hallway conversations instead of sending an email or sending a text for, hey, I need 30 minutes. You can get something accomplished and achieved within 5 minutes, which is a lot better and it saves everyone time. I think as far as on our campus in Atlanta, we have a Starbucks. Sean, I can't believe you didn't mention the Starbucks. And it is addicting because people always want to have a meeting in Starbucks. So you can't just go to Starbucks and not get anything. So I think that is one of the biggest perks. And the campus feels like a college campus. There's so many buildings on our campus. There's a lot of outdoor sitting areas where you can, sit, eat, collaborate, just be creative. And I think that allows us to just be our best selves at work.
Yeah, that's a huge perk. I don't think I've ever heard of a Starbucks. Actually, I take that back. I've been to one company that has a coffee shop, but they weren't in the golf space. So that's good to hear. And so I'm going to ask my audience. We're going to be wrapping up shortly, but if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. As far as working at Warner Brothers Discovery and specifically in their sports area, because it's something that is it's more than just golf, which is what we're learning today. There's a golf aspect, but you can obviously dabble in a lot of different sports, which is kind of cool. So the question I have here is, what are the employment opportunities for the organization? I know you touched on that, Taria, but can you just recap a little bit? And that was actually what we're going to do anyway. That was the audience question.
What I'm sorry, what was the question? What are
the
employee
current
opportunities?
Yeah, current employment opportunities for the organization or within the next few years, if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, well, and Sean came through this program, as you mentioned. We have the NCAA internship program. It's a 13th month program for recent graduates where you can work on various parts of the NCAA business. So, like I said, editorial, multimedia, PR, marketing. It's a really great opportunity, and Sean is a product of that. We have other production internships where you can kind of be in the trenches behind the scenes, learning about the business. And then through our People Advisory Council and our Engage group, we have the Oscar Pope Lift Every Voice Fellowship, where a student journalist of color has an opportunity to get to attend one of our all-star tentpole events, so like all-star opening night, and actually interview players and get mentorship from a lot of our staff. So we try to just think of opportunities that'll be beneficial for students and young people to see what it's like to work in all areas of sports.
And I would assume, although you probably don't have all of them in your top of your mind, if there's some mid-level and senior level opportunities as well, correct?
My best advice for that is to go to the Warner Brothers Discovery career page to see what's available when it comes to that level.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll include that, by the way, anybody who's on the chat here, if you're registered for the event, you'll get the links to those pages so that you can check out the opportunities. The other thing is, and I know you're not in HR, but a lot of companies have mentioned that they do kind of job alerts. Are you aware that that's something that you offer as far as your on your website for career opportunities?
I am not aware of that, but I'm sure there's something you can set up, like most career sites, where you can get alerts about jobs.
And then what's your viewpoint on LinkedIn? Because we've had a lot of people on the call say that, a good way to connect with somebody if you're wanting to get into a certain department and you want to go to the person who may be of hiring power, connecting with them on LinkedIn. Is that something that you value as a good tool, Taria? Or are you more of a email? What do you recommend?
I would love to hear Sean's thoughts on this, but I'll say that LinkedIn is probably the best way to start for me, and then we can always transition to email if it gets to that point of setting up a call or coffee or something like that. But LinkedIn is probably the best way. However, I will caveat and say cold LinkedIn outreach does not work for me because I have to have a connection point to remember how I know you or where I know you from. So if someone attended this career fair and they mention it when they reach out, then that's a connection point. If you just say, I ran across your page and I want to connect, that is not a connection point. So I think that is important to remember.
Yeah, I appreciate you reminding people of that, like making it make sense. I can agree with you. When I see people just randomly send me messages, I'm just not interested in responding. It's got to somehow make me think, why are you reaching out? What's the connecting point? Sean, you want to speak to kind of LinkedIn or email? What works best?
Yeah, I use LinkedIn. I would say for everybody to kind of start that as the starting point. But also, when you use LinkedIn, I use the template that I created to reach out to people. So, hi, my name is Sean. I am interested in blank. I see you have experience in blank. I'm available. Give her 2 or 3 days. And then those are ways to get people to interact because they, one, can see what time you're available, and two, know what you're talking about, or know the topic of the conversation. That helps people to respond a little bit faster or just feel more connected versus a cold call. But yeah, that's how I would reach out. And yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn.
That's some great advice. I have another question from the chat. And then again, this may be repetitive, but just maybe people chiming in. Does Warner Brothers Sports look to add new talent from the social media content space? I don't know which one of you want to take that. Anybody in particular want to take that one? Okay, Victoria.
I guess my question back is, when you say talent, do you mean celebrities or do you mean trying to be an employee? If you mean employees, again, I would refer to LinkedIn. A lot of people on LinkedIn post about social media openings. I think there is one now on the BR team, and then the site as well. But if you mean talent as in celebrity, because we use the word talent as our analysts or celebrities, then that always goes through our talent team, and they're always looking at how our talent can work across platforms. So if they start on television, can we put them somewhere digitally? Can we do them somewhere audioly, like a podcast or social opportunities as well?
Thanks for the clarification. I'm assuming it's related to employment since this is a virtual career fair, but I think that's good to clarify for both. So thank you for that question from the audience. So with that, we're going to start wrapping up. Obviously, if you have any questions as we wrap up, feel free to put in the chat. But I just want you all to speak to, just why, if someone wants to apply, why working at Warner Brothers Discovery or Warner Brothers Sports, I may be saying it wrong, is a great opportunity, and why they should consider working there. So I'll start with you, Sean, and then wrap up with you, Taria.
Yeah, you're in a location where you have a lot of different sports at your fingertips. And even we have AEW wrestling. So if you're not necessarily a sports person, but kind of want to get in that wrestling space, we have that as well. We have Highlight Her for more women-centered sports kind of stories and storytelling. So there's a lot of different things that you can do here. So I feel as though that's why you should apply. But while you're here, you will be introduced to so many other things that you may find new interests and different skills. So.
Yes, and Sean didn't say this, but he's going to be a full-fledged golfer in about a year from now. I'll have to check in back with you and see how that progress is going. All right, Taria, why do people should work at Warner Brothers Sports from your perspective?
I think it's just a great company, like Sean said, to work across sports, to learn more about other sports. So people are always interested in working on NBA or NHL or NCAA, but there are other opportunities from a lot of our other college sports programs to the match to soccer. So we have a lot, and any experiences can benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So for those who tuned in late in the call, the recording will be provided on our YouTube channel, but also if you want to get the job posting and contact information, please make sure you're registered for free. This is our final interview for the 2-week virtual career fair. And I'm grateful to our guests, Taria and Sean, for joining us. As I said earlier, GolfDigest, Golf TV is a subsidiary of this company. So there is some golf involved, but there's so much more, as you've learned in this interview, to working at this company, that there's other opportunities if you have any interest in working at this company. Also, feel free to send me your resume via our info@blackgolfdirectory.com email so that I can forward it to all of our participating companies. We had 9 participating companies, so we have 9 opportunities for you to have your resume looked at. So be sure to send it, and also be clear about what it is that you're interested in the resume and cover letter, so that the right person can contact you. And I just want to thank our guests again, thank our audience for listening in. And I'm excited to wrap up this 4th annual BGD Virtual Career Fair. So thanks again, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.